Here we are in the testing grounds. Important day for E-MTBR because we have the Amflow Carbon bike right here, and it has the DJI motor. So the bike looks pretty good, but it's nothing spectacular. What's spectacular is the motor because it's made by DJI. In fact, they made this bike company so they can host their motor while other manufacturers work on it. And why is this important? There's a ton of videos on why this motor is so good. But let me tell you a little bit about the company DJI. You know, if you don't know about them, they make this power station right here. They make drones, and drones are probably one of the hardest problems to solve. And look, check out this new drone. This new drone has carbon fiber spokes right here, and all you have to do is open it up, and boom, it turns itself on, and this thing flies itself. Check this out. All I need to do is press a button. That's DJI for you. And I'm gonna get on the DJI bike right here, and we are gonna do some test riding with some power meter pedals to take out all variables. Excited? I am. All right, here's my testing ground. This is the entry right here. You might have seen the GoPro video, but here's where I set up. I start my timer right where that fence is, and this is the bike. This is my Garmin, and what really makes this test special is the Garmin tells me how much power I'm putting in the pedals. Power meter pedals, I got a clip in for this. So I regulate my average to 200 watts. Just something, a big effort, because in the so the motor is putting out everything it can, usually at 200 watts, and they have their own computer, very fancy. But I'm gonna do this test in full turbo, and then maybe trail, and then maybe auto. All right, here we go. Here is the test. Timer started right there. First try is on turbo mode, and we try to maintain an 85 RPM cadence. Always try to hit the same line every time and stay as close to 200 watts pedaling power as possible. Right here you get to hear the noise of the bike and the motor. Coming! Pretty loud, but it's mostly the dry trail. You can barely hear the motor really, but you hear some distinct whine right there. And right here, this is climbing, and this bike is climbing at a speed of about 15 miles an hour. It's a little hard to control it in the loose corners. That special boost mode was not used in this instance. It's hard to use anyway because this climb does not seem steep enough. On this hill. Right there, still climbing, but very fast. You don't have to shift that much on this bike because there's so much torque. You're able to keep the pedals ticking over at a good RPM, even as it gets steep. So, first time experience, and we stop the clock right here. Okay, I'm super stoked because I just finished my climbing speed test on this DJI powered Amflow bike, and the results are exciting, super exciting. Okay, but first let me kind of set the scene for you guys. So this is the $7,000 bike. I did an unboxing on this bike right here. Pretty fascinating so far. $7,000 is not sold in the US yet. So, you know, it was just imported for us. And I think latter half of 2025 they're trying to set up their dealers and service centers. So, you know, it takes a little bit of time, but they're definitely coming to the US. and it's available in Europe. A lot of feedback already in Europe, but no one has really tested the motor, the speed of this motor, this bike right here, you know. And so I have a lot of comments. So the second part is just going to focus on, you know, the speed, the power, the configurability of this motor. Okay, so to set the scene a little bit, I have a climbing test right here, just a fire road. It's 500 feet in 1 mile, I test it at full power, usually all the bikes, and I have about 20 bikes already tested, including regular bikes. You know, I put the hammer down, and but with all the testing that I do and that people do, there is one huge kind of variable, is how much effort does the rider put out. I make that constant, and how I do that is with these special Garmin pedals, power meter pedals. They allow me to see my power throughout the climb, and I make sure I average 200 watts from the bottom to the top of the climb. Okay, so that being said, I have about 20 to 30 bikes that are already measured. So in data, 3 minutes, 8 minutes, what does it matter, right? If you don't have anything to compare it to. So I have already had the data, including regular bikes, a cross-country bike, an enduro bike, mid-powered bikes, the Levo, the CX race motor. So I have a kind of a treasure chest of data already. Okay, so DJI motor, what it claims, if you haven't heard already, is a small motor, 800 watt hour battery, and this thing puts out 105 Newton meters of torque. Torque is the most important, and torque multiplied by RPM that it can sustain equals watts. So at 105, it puts out 80 watts, 800 watts. So that's a lot, because the Bosch and the Levo are at 600 watts. And the latest Shimano, you know, maybe it's getting close to 600 watts as well. So now 800 watts are like, whoa. But does it really translate to the trail? The other trick up its sleeve is it has a turbo mode, a boost mode, where for 30 seconds, it's going to put out 120 Newton meters. 120 Newton meters at their RPM that they support is 1,050 watts. Right now, it's sitting at 50 pounds with my power meter pedals. And, you know, it just got heavified a little bit. But the important part is that the tires are the same. So this is a 29er. And what we have is an Assegai in the front and a DHR on the rear. So nothing fancy. You know, 47 pounds was not bad, but we kind of beefed it up a little bit. It's kind of a trail bike, so we made it a little more all mountain. And I said, okay, that probably is good for a few seconds, but we tested it this way. The most important data point is the speed on turbo mode, because that's what I tested all the other bikes at. And the speed is 3 minutes and 46 seconds. 3 minutes and 46 seconds. I just glanced at my old data. Is a staggering result. Staggering because, you know, the fastest, the record holder was about 4 minutes and 40 seconds. That was the Bosch CX race. And the Bosch CX5 was about the same. So 4 minutes and 40. For this to go 346 is insane. We had an Aventon bike with 110 Newton meter. That went 410, 415. But 3 minutes 46 is insane. Okay? A couple other parts I'll comment on is the noise level. The noise level at eco, in idle, in trail mode, you almost can't hear it. In turbo and in boost is the quietest of all the motors. Just amazing. It kind of has the noise level of like a Fatsuwa or what's the other one, the TQ motor, but those put out 1/3 of the power. So for this to put out this much power with this little noise is really, really impressive. Finally, the rattle. People have reported rattle. I couldn't really hear it. You know, I don't have the roughest terrain, but but I do hear rattle, and here I could barely hear it. I could more hear my fork and the bike. So it is pretty quiet. Quick rattle test, drop test. You hear the Bosch X4 rattle here on the drop test. Yeah. Okay. On the DJI bike, you can't really hear it. Now check this riding video. can't really hear it. It's not dead quiet, but you can barely hear it really, the rattle on coasting. Last section, we will answer some frequently asked questions and go through some testing notes. So it is a fast motor for sure, faster than we expected even. The speed going up the hill was 15.9 miles an hour compared to the EP8 powered bike that we have, and that's at 10.6 miles an hour. So you could see the differences there. If this was an hour climb, there would be a 20-minute difference between this and an EP8 motor. Something interesting is the trail mode speed is very fast as well at 4 minutes, much faster than the Levo or CX4 race equipped bikes. And I think the reason is trail mode doesn't cap the peak power, the peak torque of this motor. Because we were working hard at 200 watts, it was giving us a lot of available power. The other note is drag when the motor is off. We notice it is there more than the Shimano or the Bosch motors. Very similar to the Levo motor and the TQ motor. On the subject of battery range, our data point is on our climbs. On average, it would say we would use 8% of the 800 watt hours of battery. So it's not too far off. But a couple things to note. One is when the motor is putting out 800 watts or 1050 watts, it is very hard for the rider to help. So it's very hard for you to work because it's just a lot of power. So I think a lot of people will experience lower range because they're not able to help as much. The other part of it is on our first 1 or 2 runs, it said we only used 5 or 6% of battery, but then later on it would say 8 to 9%. So we think the calibration of the battery percentage indicator is not quite accurate. It's more generous on the first 50% of the battery range life. The next question is this a Class 1 legal e-bike in the United States? And how is that possible when it has so much power? So the rule for Class 1 is it has to have an average nominal power of 250 watts output, and there cannot be a throttle. So this bike actually qualifies in a very similar fashion as the Levo bikes and all the Bosch and Shimano powered bikes, because its power is nominally or average rated at 250 watts. So what we're seeing here, Bosch is 600 watts and this DJI is 800 watts. These are peak powers. And what peak power is what can it do at its peak where the motor heats up. On nominal or average power, the motor is not allowed to heat up. It should be able to go there, maintain that all day long. So this DJI motor is a 250 watt nominal rated bike. It's a little bit of a loophole, but we'll see how this pans out in the future. The next thing we'll do is some downhill testing. We have already started, but we don't have quite enough data yet, and the results are good so far. It is a trail bike. We kind of improved the suspension quite a bit, but we will go through that, and so subscribe to the channel because we will have a lot more information about this bike. And finally, what do we think this does to the competition, and will other frame manufacturers build a bike around this motor? And the answer is most definitely yes. We asked 3 of our industry contacts, do they have this motor, this bike in-house? And all of them said yes, meaning it's in their R&D departments. They are looking at the bike. They're figuring out how to put this bike, this motor, and this system in their frame. So expect to see that, and that will be really the most exciting part of the DJI story. When we have a tier 1 manufacturer selling this bike with their whole dealer network and support available in the United States in different travels, maybe a 41-pound bike and a 170, 180 millimeter travel bike. Now maybe we're talking, and so the future is bright for the industry, but definitely an industry shakeup is going to happen because this is a kind of a paradigm shift, a game changer, shots fired, so to speak. So there you go. What do you guys think? Hopefully this will come to the US sooner rather than later, because it is spectacular bike so far.